Hello, we are going to be talking about World War II. So, Germany, even though World War I was caused by Austria-Hungary fighting against Serbia and then like these other countries getting involved, Germany was blamed for World War I. So now they owed money to other nations. This made things very difficult. There was even a point where there would be piles and mountains of German money out in the streets. Children would play in mountains of German money because it became virtually worthless. People were having just such a hard time making ends meet, so this created a sense of resentment among German citizens. A former soldier from World War I was Adolf Hitler. And he rose to power within Germany. He appealed to people's feelings of resentment for being put in this situation, for owing all this money back to other countries for the war. He was very charismatic. Yes, he did cause the Holocaust, but he did know a psychopath knows how people work and knows how to appeal to their best interest, and will tend to be more charismatic at the beginning. So he rose to power by appealing to Germans' resentment. Germany was suffering. It needed more resources, and just like what we've seen in imperialism that all other countries have done as well, is that it sought to acquire more land. And so it did that with 1938. It sought to acquire part of Czechoslovakia. Now it's called the Czech Republic and Slovakia, but part of Czechoslovakia and Austria. So it gained. If there even though there were individual nations, there was a lot of German people living in that area. So the parts of those countries that had a lot of German people, it's just kind of absorbed. Parts of Austria, so that was a country bordering it, and formerly Czechoslovakia. Let me just double check my spelling here. Yes. Czechoslovakia. Okay. So then, after absorbing parts of Austria and Czechoslovakia, there was Germany became more powerful, right? And this upset Great Britain. Great Britain is kind of like a big dog in Europe. It's starting to feel threatened by Germany. It's if Germany gets even more land, then clearly they're gonna be very upset about what we did to them. They might want to attack us. So they struck a deal. Great Britain struck it. So Great Britain feels threatened. It's like, ooh, they might get revenge on us. They're becoming more powerful. Now, something else I want to point out is that because of World War One, the other countries forced Germany to disband its army. So Germany did not have an army between World War One and World War Two. And you're like, well, then how did they take over everything? I'll get to that in a moment. And so then the next territory that is next to Germany is Poland. Like literally right next to it. So like this is a very rough drawing. And right here's Poland. Great Britain told Poland, hey, if Germany invades you, we're going to be on your side. Great Britain wasn't necessarily doing this out of the kindness of their heart. They were doing it because if they gained Poland, which was a large population, lots of great resources, very lush place, it would just make Germany just very overpowered, and Great Britain was not going to have any of that. So it promised Great Britain, promised to help Poland. So this is where a lot of wars don't start off between countries attacking each other. It's by other countries feeling threatened and they get caught up in the mix. So like, how did they do it? How did Germany get a military? Where's that? So Germany's Hitler Youth. With the Hitler Youth, it was basically, you could consider it just very similar to what we have, like the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts of America. However, it was more military training, and they would actually teach them how to like deal things with air raids and actually encourage competitiveness that would involve in like physical alterations. It was kind of like beefing them up for the war that was to come. Germany was an agreement, did agree like, hey, we need more territory, and it did understand like there might be a war for that, and like it kind of had an army hidden in plain sight. And so this was like people who were under the age of 18, but they would have to be people who would have to train them, adults. So then these adults who were World War I veterans, they would also keep on like practicing their skills. So these would the World War I veterans would effectively be the ones going into like what would be World War II, and then they would be able to replace soldiers as the youth would age out. So if someone was in the 16 years old to 17-year-old bracket, as soon as they became of age, they could go into the war. This is actually a very smart strategy, just on so many ways. Like they were able to like not draw suspicion. Like, hey, we don't have an army. We just have like, oh, we're just having people. They're just teaching us skills. So like they did a lot of hiking. Like, wait, don't soldiers do this? Don't they walk for miles and miles, carrying a lot of things, learning how to survive? Yeah, it was just very similar. They also taught competition, individual, and group competition. And it allowed like fistfights. Because that is what also happened in the trenches. When like people would invade and ran out of bullets, it would result into like hand-to-hand combat. So basically, this translated to hand-to-hand combat in the military. It also individual group competition is just a team building skill. Very important if you're trying to fight a war. You want people on the same page. Hiking, it just made them just easier for like invading areas. Also, was very interesting is that it kept track of physical prowess. So like if you were like it would like routinely check the youth like, hey, how strong are you? And it would kind of rank them, and then it would just follow them throughout as they got older near the end of the Hitler Youth program. So by the time that they were 18, it was already known which would make the best soldiers. Here in the United States, we have like an A for someone, and then for like someone who's like not fit for combat, we'll give them they'll be deferred. They'll get a score of an F. So it's just pretty great to like keep track, because like as you know, like scrawny little boy grows into like big muscular man. But it's nice to like have already this at the ready, so you don't have to necessarily screen as many soldiers. Even the soldiers, the Hitler Youth already know that if they're on the higher physical prowess, they're more likely to be soldiers, and they're like gonna embrace that mentality. So the point of the Hitler Youth was not only to make soldiers, and if you weren't physically fit, you just became a politician. Just like protecting the German interests on the home front. So when Germany finally said all right, we're in an all-out war, that's when just like from one day to the next, they're like, all right, we've got our military ready to go. They've already trained. They're ready to be deployed. So like instant army. Ready to go. Okay. Now I want to talk about the what countries were on each side of the war. So here again we see the term allies, and we have axes. World War II. So Axis, Germany. I mean, they're the ones that started it. Then we have Italy. We also have Japan. Spain kind of did get involved a little bit. They allowed Germans to test things in their military weapons on a village called Guernica. That's why you see like this picture made by Pablo Picasso called Guernica. That is it was a result of Spain's then fascist dictator saying like, well, we're not going to be real in the war, but there's these anarchists in this community, and like we have no problem if you do testing to like get rid of them. It's a win-win for those two governments. So Spain kind of like didn't want to get truly involved, but it was more of a you scratch my back, I scratch your back kind of situation. Then for the Allies, we had Great Britain. We had France. And then after the attack of Pearl Harbor, we also had the United States. And the Allies weren't really weren't doing very well in the war until the United States kind of came in and kind of helped change the tide of the war. And there were other countries as well, especially if you were being invaded. And Russia's kind of like here. Like, yes, Russia did invade Poland. So like here, Germany invaded different parts and invaded Austria, Czechoslovakia. It invaded part of Poland right here. So if we know that we have never eat sour watermelons. Oh, that was just a mnemonic for north, east, southwest. Okay, so Germany invaded Western Poland. You know, you're gonna invade the side that's closest to you. That's like when you eat a pizza, you eat the part that's closest to you. You're not gonna eat the side that's opposite to you. That's kind of doesn't make any sense. It's a waste of resources and energy. And then Russia said like, yo, we're cool with that. We'd like to gain territory because Russia did have some ties with Poland. So like, hey, we want to regain this part of Poland. So kind of like they had interest in wanting to get want part of Poland. So they also did invade. So not west in Poland, they invaded the other side, so it was eastern. East Poland. This was... They also invaded France too, by the way. And West Poland. Italy, it attacked... So Italy, because it has access to like the Mediterranean Sea, they actually didn't try to attack necessarily territories in Europe. They actually tried to take over Ethiopia and a whole other continent. They just went across the Mediterranean Sea and wanted to get Ethiopia. And then Japan invaded China. Now everything was Russia was not on the side of Germany. Russia was on its own side because at the beginning was here, but then it kind of like switched sides. It did end up helping free a lot of people from concentration camps during ending the Holocaust. It did also like fight alongside the Allies, but Germany did betrayed Russia. By invading Ukraine. Ukraine is just a beautiful place with lots of high resources. Again, this is the concept behind imperialism. You want more resources. So it betrayed Russia, so like Russia's like, oh no, you didn't. So now Russia started fighting against Germany. So effectively, you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. They started moving alongside with the Allies. So at first, oh, by the way, even though uh, Germany was absorbing parts of Austria and Czechoslovakia in 1938, that other countries didn't really mind. I mean, even the Prime Minister of Great Britain said, like, yeah, it's cool. When Hitler annexed Czechoslovakia to Germany, but then the war started in 1939. So then this war took place in Europe, Africa, and Asia. Yeesh. And they thought World War One was the Great War. So this was a war in Europe, Africa, and Asia. Now, I do want to talk about the Holocaust. So with the Holocaust, not only did did it target Hebrews, Jewish people, people who were Jews. It also targeted people who had mental illness. People who had, at that time, it was also considered if you were LGBTQ plus, that was considered a mental illness. So then those people were also like targeted in the Holocaust. Also, people who had different political parties. So this was very much so targeted against people who were, well, communism is a form of, it's like what capitalism is. So like, it's a economic system, but like, it would have been socialism. Also, people who were open socialists. Yeah, I do want to go ahead and just make that note. So people have said like, oh, they're communists. Like, oh, communism is like, so like, here we have just a tidbit. And then you can have socialism. or a form of socialism is also like democracy. And then you have economic types of communism. So socialism and communism kind of like go together. And then we have democracy and capitalism, which sometimes go together. So just use the right term. Okay. So that was a tidbit. So it targeted also people of darker skin. If you did not meet the perfect image, so the perfect image was, oh goodness. Yeah, this is definitely not a perfect image. But the ideal German citizen is fair-skinned, blonde. They were also okay with brunettes, but this was like the standard of beauty, and also like colored eyes. So, ladies, as we all know, with standards of beauty, we will we will chase those standards of beauty. So, even today, there are skin lightening creams. So people who did not want to be targeted, they didn't want to be sent to a concentration camp or publicly executed as well. There were skin lightening creams. There was also people dyeing their hair. So like all of these this spurred on the creation and the development of these particular beauty products. Hair dye kits. And also contact lenses. But back then, contact lenses were made of glass. So yeah, that was pretty hard when you're having to blink. I think they were even still glass contact lenses up until like the 80s or even the 90s. So just imagining, just living in society, maybe you did support Hitler, or maybe you did not, but you did not want to be shipped off into a concentration camp. This is where you wanted to fit the mold, or the citizens wanted to fit the mold, that way they wouldn't be considered with this group of people. So they started like bleaching their skin, bleaching their hair, and then like going for like colored contact lenses. So this wasn't necessarily a sense of like beauty for aesthetic. Like let's say if a woman has curly hair and like she just wants to like enhance her curls, and like she'll put like nice curl cream, that's something for beauty. But this was like for like a fear of conforming, because this was the alternative. Something else I do want to mention is that the Holocaust, the way the concentration camps kind of happened is that they were like, oh, they're just work camps, you know, like, we don't like you, but like we're not really killing you. And then it just got more and more aggressive the more they were able to get away with it. Like first it started off with like more outright segregation. So the Holocaust went from segregation to a concentration camp. And you know what is also like horrible is that at the concentration camp they were forced to build things for the German military. So they had to build bombs, they built rubber, they made clothes, they made shoes. So they were making it harder for them to be freed, and also making it easier for the German army to like put more people into concentration camps. They would even make bullets, and there would be people in the concentration camps who would kind of like destroy a bit of the factory to help, and the German officers had a very wicked way of dealing with it. Instead of like really searching for who did it, they would just pick random people and then like publicly execute them to set the example. So then people had the fear of conforming and leaving. It was just a very sad time, and people around who lived around these concentration camps in the cities, they kind of knew what was going on, and they did turn a blind eye towards that. I can also imagine it was very difficult, especially when if you like spoke out, or even if you called like Hitler a lunatic, or you called this inhumane, you would be shipped off to a concentration camp. This was actually the whole point of the Hitler Youth, is that it got rid of people who did not agree with Hitler. With the Hitler Youth, they would also like they were also like kind of like spies in the home. And school. So many teachers, so many family members were like turned in as traitors, and they were shipped off to concentration camp. So like children, there was I think there was even one boy who like turned in his father for calling Hitler a lunatic, and his father was sent to the concentration camp like the next day, and then the boy was promoted like within the Hitler Youth ranks. Yeah, your own flesh and blood. So like we had, and there was also cases where like teachers, when like they were going through the history books and like rewriting history and like removing that Germany had lost World War I in the history books, there was a point where like children were told to like rip out pages from their history books, and a teacher looked up and was like, oh my goodness, like what are we teaching? The students documented that as like suspicious behavior, and like the teacher was sent off to a concentration camp. So it was either comply or you will be also sent off to a concentration camp. It's if you're not with us, you're against us, and really that's very unfortunate. So spies in the home, family, and teachers. Were turned in for treason. So treason is like a very big offense. It usually results in jail time and like not even being allowed in that country. And traitors were sent to concentration camps. So imagine being someone who disagreed with what Hitler was doing to Germany, and then just seeing like how other people who would just spoke their mind would just get taken to a concentration camp. It just created a sense of hopelessness, and it's just so mind-boggling how even in your own home you couldn't even be yourself, or like complain about just the horrible situation of like rationing, food rationing and certain things, when you could be just turned in by your own children or your own family. It's just so horrible. The German people also did suffer in a way. So it went from segregation to concentration camp, to death camps and death marches. So it just, near the end of World War II, Hitler's priority still was and like eliminating said enemies. And instead of like using these resources for like helping out the German military, he increased concentration camp operations, and like said like, all right, we're not even going to be doing productions, we are doing death. They were marching people, saying that they were relocating them. A lot of them were just like death marches. There'd be like large holes in the ground that the that the prisoners would have to bury themselves, and then they'd just be lined up and shot. Very horrible. Very, very, very horrible. And it was that obsession with suppressing, not it's just suppressing, but eliminating and wiping from existence this group of people. Very horrible. Something else I do want to mention is more scientific innovation. So we had more weapons of mass destruction made in World War I. We had also more weapons of mass destruction in World War II. So the atomic bomb. So the United States was developing the atomic bomb, and when they were developing, it was like super, super secret. Like the people who were working on it, they tried to mail people. It was very difficult, and even like when they were shipping the scientists to that location, like to like be like making the atomic bomb, they would like send them like on different trains. They were just so scared of like foreign spies, kind of like piecing together what the United States was doing. So it was developed by the United States. And this is really what just turned the tide of the war. And with the atomic bomb, no American lives were lost, yet it was able to like deal, like just completely wipe out different cities. There was 2 atomic bombs that landed in Japan. We had Hiroshima. And this was not another way that the war lost popularity, especially with Japanese people, is that now it wasn't just resulting in the death of their soldiers, but it was also hurting innocent people. Japan had not needed to fight on their soil, like on Japanese soil. They never, the war was not in their home. It was, they were fighting it elsewhere. And the United States had like a personal vendetta. It was like very personal for the United States to get back to Japan for what happened at Pearl Harbor. It was unprecedented attack. When the United States had declared itself neutral against World War II, and Japan still attacked the United States. So we had Hiroshima, and then I just want to double check the spelling for the other Japanese town. And it was also Nagasaki. So it just eliminated, just completely destroyed those areas. So this was it was mass destruction. That was the scary part of it, like just how massive the destruction was. But also, it was a little plane that just dropped the bomb. It wasn't like a whole armada, a whole fleet that could be easily stopped. It's just a one little plane that could just like sneak in, and that's what it did. It snuck into Japan and dropped the bomb. So it was just like kind of like a silent, easily slipped in. And it would occur very quickly. It was just as soon as it flew over the area, it could just drop the massive atomic bomb. This is very different from a whole army like marching, taking a long time to get there. You could have scouts that are like watching out. No, this is just as quickly as an airplane ride. You have no time to prepare. Like the minute, like even if you were worried about it, the minute you saw planes, you would just, it was already too late. You really couldn't hide. So this just changed the war. Just gave the United States a massive advantage. So then we can, shortly thereafter, World War II ended in 1945. The United States was only involved from 1941 to 1945. But this just really changed the outcome of the war. So we had December 7, 1941, the bombing of Pearl Harbor. So the actual World War II was 1939 to 1945. U.S. jumped in 1941. All right. And now after World War II, there's just like after any big war, there's like tensions between certain nations. And what comes after this is called the Cold War, which is mainly against Russia and the United States. And this might be something that that your grandparents or even your parents experienced growing up, like having like bomb shelters and things of that like. Also, I do want to give a little historical context to after the war. What happens after massive wars? People come back home. One, the death rate goes down. People stop dying, like massive amounts of like people dying on a daily basis. Population will increase. Also, those young men are now able to have children and get married, have children. And this resulted in the baby boom after the war. And this is people who were born after 1945 within a certain time period. They're called baby boomers. Just giving a little historical context on that term. Also, I will mention it is considered rude to call someone. It is I guess historic. According to social sciences, it is correct to call someone, hey, you're a Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, baby boomer. That's literally the category that it is according to like social sciences. But calling someone a boomer is kind of a derogatory term. So just want to give a little tidbit on that. So see you later. And also go ahead and comment on the videos if you haven't done so.